My name is Jamal, and I'm an organizer with the Answer Coalition, that's Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. I'm out here today because in the days and weeks since the beginning of the federal takeover of DC, the struggle that we have been seeing in our city has become the center of national attention and news. What happens here in these days and weeks that we're living through right now will set precedents, for good or for bad, for cities all across the country in the months to come. The current moment reveals the priorities of all factions of our ruling class. The Democratic Party establishment of Mayor Muriel Bowser has capitulated to the Trump administration. Just as the same Democratic Party establishment of California Governor Gavin Newsom capitulated in June when the National Guard was deployed to LA. This is not out of cowardice, but out of an alignment to the needs of the forces at play. And in the United States, in this day and age, that means an alignment to the forces of capital. The modern day slave patrols, known as federal law enforcement and ICE, have been set loose and have been wreaking havoc on our communities, spreading fear and violating the civil rights and dignity of the people that call our city home. Those of us who live here know and can feel that there is widespread anger at these actions by both the federal and local governments. There is resistance taking shape across the city as we speak, from the totally spontaneous to efforts organized at various levels by grassroots community and faith groups, nonprofits, community groups, and other organizations. We know that this crisis has only provided a material basis for uniting and integrating the movements against racist police terror, against ICE, and against the Trump administration's billionaire agenda, with the movement for DC statehood and sovereignty, and ultimately toward our liberation, justice, and a better future for people all over the DMV. Y'all feeling that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are in a moment, folks, today, which is extraordinary, in that we have now seen troops deployed to our streets, to our metro stops, and to our neighborhoods. Those guardsmen that I've had the opportunity to speak to, as I'm walking through the street here, kind of know what is going on. You can't get too much past them. They know that they're being used as props.
Yes.
They know. They're being used as props for Trump's show of force. For them, it's a scene reminiscent of the Presence Patrols, seen in countless overseas wars over the past 20 some odd years and beyond. Wars which were based on lies and false pretenses, and that delivered them, their families, and civilians abroad 20 years of disaster. So now, today, we face another war, a different kind of war. A war, nonetheless, still based on lies and false pretenses, but this time on American soil. The so-called war on crime is just a smokescreen. Crime in Washington, D.C. is at a 30-year low. I'll say that again. It's at a 30-year low, with a significant drop in violent crime. The motivation for the deployment of federal troops is purely based on the racist fantasies of those currently in power. Republicans have wanted to take over the district since 1973, when it created a black-led political establishment for the first time. Service members, people who are currently serving in the military and who have been for the first time in their lives sometimes deployed to do a job that they never signed up to do. Service members like those in the National Guard patrols stationed around our city currently can actually play a pivotal role in this movement, resisting this racist and unconstitutional federal takeover of Washington, D.C. It is moments like these that service members can and must take a stand. Trump wants to use the trust that the majority of the American people have in the U.S. military to serve his latest branding stunt. But imagine what would happen if service members stopped being silent props. What if they decided to no longer sit by and watch as our neighbors are terrorized by masked thugs and thrown into the back of a van and deported to some country that they have never been to in their lives? Or what if service members decided that they are no longer going to lock it up and stand idly by as racist police and federal law enforcement harass and brutalize our black and brown youth all over the city? Service members are some of the strongest and best recruits that we have in the movement against oppression on all fronts. Most of them, I promise you this, the vast majority of them did not join because they love war. They joined because it was the only path available to them to secure housing, healthcare, and education, the social resources that we all need. The benefits that our system denies those same people. That's us. Once you're in the military, you have an opportunity to travel. You learn history, and you learn firsthand that the enemy is not who you were always told that it was. Furthermore, you learn discipline. You learn to think bigger, and you wake up to the reality of what you're being asked to do every day when you put on that uniform. The sense of disillusionment that is produced turns a lot of veterans into some of the strongest and most powerful critics of the system and the most powerful fighters for justice that we have. From standing up against imperialist wars to marching for the civil rights movement, service members have always played a pivotal role in promoting peace, equality, and justice. All you have to do is look at the history of the Vietnam War and the anti-Vietnam War movement in this country to understand that. Why don't we have a draft right now? Let's talk about that. So when veterans organize against injustice, the trust and respect afforded to them by their service to the American people makes them a uniquely powerful force for change. And so today, as we face endless wars abroad and crises like the current crackdown being brought on our city, which is terrorizing our communities, it is more important than ever for service members to get organized, resist, and fight back. Veterans, young and old, as well as actively serving reservists, guardsmen, and active duty personnel of all ranks are already in this movement. They're more numerous than you might even realize. Veterans, young and old, as well as actively serving reservists, have a pivotal role to play in this fight. And if you are a veteran or currently serving in the military, you can be part of it too. You have the opportunity to make a difference, to join us on the side of the people and make a difference when it really matters. And so, folks, I'm here today joined by some people who I really admire and I have a lot of respect for. All of them have served in uniform at one point or another in their lives. And every single one of them is out here on the side of the people, fighting for the people with us today. And so I'd like to invite a couple of my friends up here to give a few words and tell their story and to talk a little bit about what brought them out here today. Y'all feeling that? Woo! Thank you. Thank you. All right, so first up, I would like to invite my good friend, Trey. Come on up.
So I wrote like a few words when I was sleep deprived last night. My name is Trayvon Jordan. I am a union attorney, so I represent labor unions all through the South. Form a union. Your bosses don't give a shit about you. They'll replace you immediately. So just think about that. I was a captain in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps for about 9 years of my life. And you'll hear a lot of things here that you already know, you've already seen yourself. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to tell you why I'm here. And I'll be honest, with the demands of work, protests are really hard to get to, right? And I think every protest should have a goal in mind. And sometimes I'll be honest, I experience a little protest burnout. I feel like there's a lot of signal chats that I'm a part of. There's something happening every hour on the hour, right? And sometimes the goal is to kind of yell at these people, but they don't really care anyway. So why are we really talking to them? So I want to take this opportunity for organizing, right? Because that's the most important thing, organizing across, and that's how we build power. Because they really don't care, right? So us yelling at them does not make a difference. And a few things go through my head when I'm at protests. It's generally like, why is everyone yelling so loud? Like, oh my God, we gotta go march now. Like, I've been walking all day. Does me being here even matter? Like, why am I here? Am I making any difference whatsoever? And the reason I'm here is in case this message reaches one service member or one veteran that decides to change their mind based on what they hear here today. And if we can do that, I think being out here at 9 a.m. is definitely worth it, right? So this is extremely important because the truth is out here, right? DC is being occupied. And if you don't know the history of DC, there's always been a power struggle in DC because there were too many black people here. And that's the reality. Read Chocolate City is the truth. People were willing to not have voting power just to not let black people have political power. They said, quote, Negro domination in the political process is why they reject home rule, right? So as service members and veterans, it's really hard to ignore the fact that we're just used as tools of oppression. All of us here have experienced that, and that's why we're here talking today. And right now we see guardsmen just walking around the district doing landscaping and throwing away trash. It's a complete waste of money. And they know, and I've spoke to them, they know that this is all bullshit, right? They don't want to be here. But we need to be mindful and keep these things in mind because just in 1970, 28 guardsmen fired on protesters in Kent State, right? So the reason we're here is in Jackson State too. The reason we're here is extremely important because people need in their heads right now that they will receive more unlawful orders, right? And not only do they have like the right to deny or refuse unlawful orders, they have a duty to refuse unlawful orders. And if that gets an idea swimming in somebody's head, that is what matters. If that gets other service members talking to one another about, okay, what the hell are we going to do when they ask us to do more atrocious things? That's what matters. And those are the people who are going to have to make those decisions. But I want to say, we're here to be guides for you, to help you navigate that conflict, to have those conversations with fellow service members, to let you know the law. That, hey, I'm a lawyer. You have the duty to disobey these orders. And really, it's about being in community with other people who feel the way you feel. And people often ask me, what radicalized you? And I'm like, it's being in the fucking Marine Corps is what radicalized me. Like dealing with the government and seeing how they treat people, seeing my Marines living in black mold and treated like garbage and literally making poverty wages. seeing how they're treated in healthcare, seeing how they're treated after they get out. Veterans committing suicide at the VA hospitals in their parking lots, right? People recognize this, but the next step after recognizing is organizing. And that's the only way we're going to get anything done. And to any guardsmen or soldiers or whatever, you aren't our enemy. We know who our enemies are, and we are not yours. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's have another round of applause for Trey. All right, so next up, we're going to come and hear some words from another friend of mine, Nick, who is a lawyer, and he's a representative of the Partnership for Civil Justice Fund, based right here in Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Nick.
Good morning, Washington, D.C. My name is Nick Place. I am an attorney with the Partnership for Civil Justice Fund. Before that, I was a public defender in New Orleans, Louisiana for 6 years. And before that, I was an officer in the United States Marine Corps. I want to make two kind of points today. The first is to talk about the justification given by the Trump administration for this crackdown here in D.C., saying that it's about crime. I want to talk to you from my experience as a public defender representing people charged with crimes. If you want to prevent crime, we have to provide for people's basic needs: education, housing, food, all things that the Trump administration has gutted, that the Trump administration is taking away from all of us. This sets the conditions for crime. It does not solve it. The criminal justice system can only punish. It can only inflict pain. If you want to prevent crime, all of our needs, whether it's me, whether it's someone who's sleeping on the street right now, has to be provided for. That is the way to prevent crime. What you're seeing now is a crackdown on all of us. Now, the second thing, if I want to address service members, people in the National Guard, people on active duty, you all know, you can all feel what is happening, what is being done with you. You are being placed out here in the streets of Washington, D.C. at the same time that masked federal agents are roaming around like gangsters on the streets of D.C., snatching people up, putting them in the back of vans, hassling people on the street just for being homeless. The reason that you are out here is to delegitimize, the reason the National Guard that you are out here is to delegitimize you and your service, to blur the line between Trump's fascist police that stand around all day with their thumbs in their flak jackets and then go and crack down on somebody who's just sitting on a bench. They are blurring the line. They're leeching off your legitimacy because you come from the DC community or you've been sent from another state. You are part of that community and they want to blur that line. Do not let them. You are not ICE. You are not DEA. You are not DHS. You are a citizen. You are one of us. And I know that you feel this. You know what you're doing here is bullshit. And you're like, what can I do? And I would just follow up on what my friend said. But you can organize, you can resist, you can push back, you can think about where your line is. Because if you have to know where your line is, where you are finally going to say, no, this is illegal, I will not participate. I won't do it. Because if you don't know where your line is, the fascists in this White House will push you right up and beyond that line, and then you won't know who you are anymore. Please think about where that line is. And I would also add, if you're feeling alone, if you are feeling isolated, if you are feeling these things and you don't know what to do, I would also offer to you that there is a community out here. There are people who feel the same things, who have the same fears. We are waiting with open arms for you because it's going to take all of us pushing back. Someday, the current political regime that we are in will not exist anymore. Someday, everyone will have to answer for their actions during this time. Someday, you will have to go home and take off that uniform. And you'll have to be able to live with yourself and sit with the kind of person that you were. You know what is right. And I would just offer to you that we are here with open arms to stand with you. You have a duty to refuse illegal orders. Think about where your line is, because they are going to push you right up to it. Thank you.
Folks, let's give it up one more time for Nick. Thank you for those words. All right. So next up, to close us out for the day, I'd like to invite up another friend of mine who's been in this fight for a very long time, and someone who embodies what I see in my mind when I talk about a warrior ethos and a fighting spirit. Because as we've mentioned today, service members play a pivotal role in this fight. We know what it means to be disciplined. We know what it means to struggle toward a goal and toward an end. And we know what it means to be in that fight for the long term. And I'm going to bring up someone now who's been in this fight for a very long time and has been a fighter her whole life. So I'd like to invite up my friend Ellen from Veterans for Peace. Come on up, Ellen.
Hey, y'all, thank you so much for being out here. It's so damned important to speak out about all the garbage that's going on. Yes, I was in the military, U.S. Army, 77 to 81. I was stationed overseas twice, which isn't supposed to happen, but that's a long story why. The jerking around and breaking the rules that the military always does with regard to its own members. I was in Germany decades after that hot war. I was in South Korea decades after that hot war. And I kind of vaguely was thinking, what the fuck am I doing here? So long after these hot wars. Well, I figured out and have learned a lot since about what I was doing there. I was occupying those locations for the ongoing aggrandizement of the billionaires and the facilitation of capitalist economic dominance of the world, which is what the United States is all about, and that sadly is a lot of what our military is about. And I figured that out, and I found that out, and I've been saying it for a long time. I am deeply honored to be here today to challenge the occupation of D.C., the use of the National Guards as poster children, as his private military. My soldiers, they do what I tell them. No, sir. Our oath was not to the commander-in-chief. It was to the Constitution. We still have the Constitution, although it's been chipped away at terribly. But soldiers are to obey the Constitution. And yes, as my colleagues have said, you have a responsibility and a right and a duty to disobey unlawful orders. I was in basic training on a hot summer afternoon in 77 in Alabama. After lunch, when I bet you half the class was asleep, when they talked about that, they had to say it because it was 77, not that long after My Lai and other Vietnam horrors. And they had to say, soldiers, you have a responsibility and a right to disobey unlawful orders. And I perked up my ears, even though I wasn't very political then. But you can hear me. That was a long time ago, and I still remember it clearly. It's so important to understand that. The responsibility of soldiers is to the Constitution, not the commander-in-chief. And I got to say about D.C. in particular, I've lived in Baltimore. I don't live in D.C., I live in Baltimore, but I'm here for activism a lot. And when I first realized and heard about the issue of free D.C. and why isn't D.C. a state, I figured, well, Congress just hadn't got around to it. They're busy. No, in fact, they have voted against it hundreds of times. hundreds of times, and that is deep ingrained racism. That's what that is and always has been. Now, I want to mention a couple of good statements. I'm going to read a little bit from this flyer that's been being handed out to Guards people here in town. It's moments like these that service members can and must take a stand. Trump is using our social weight as soldiers to serve his branding stunts. And imagine the impact if we stop being silent props. That's what we need to do. I want to mention to you another organization on whose board I also serve. And they just yesterday put out information about how you can get a section with your class of high school students, your church, youth group, whoever, about the idea of seeking conscientious objector status and getting out of this misused military. It's called the Center on Conscience and War. That is the current name of an over 80-year-old organization that has helped COs and has helped change the laws on becoming a CO. Back then, you had to have a specific church connection with the so-called historic peace churches like the Mennonites and folks like that. And that's the only way you could be designated a CO. Now it's your own personal philosophy, which you have to explain in great detail, and it's a long, slow process. But the Center on Conscience and War can help you, soldiers, if you're feeling like you can't do this anymore. There's the GI Rights Hotline, which is mentioned in the flyer, and the Center on Conscience and War, which is where they'll refer you for the legal and philosophical and counseling advice and support you need to go through the difficult CO process if that's where you find yourself. Now I'm going to read from the bottom of a statement just released yesterday evening by Veterans for Peace. I am a member of the board of Veterans for Peace, have been a member for a long time. VFP is celebrating our 40th birthday this year. I haven't been in quite that long, but just about. We have had for quite a while a campaign called Peace at Home, Peace Abroad. Veterans for Peace joins the majority of people in the U.S. who reject the deployment of the National Guard, U.S. troops, and ICE to terrorize our communities and prepare the ground for fascist repression. We will and do work with civil society organizations resisting these illegal authoritarian measures. We call for peace at home and abroad, an end to U.S. support for genocide in Gaza, an end to provocative military actions against China, Iran, Venezuela, Mexico, and there's several not very well-known struggles going on in Africa, too. And a permanent peace agreement in Ukraine. And we invite like-minded people, especially fellow veterans, to join us, all of us, in defending our communities and building a future of peace at home, peace abroad. Thank you.
I wanted to end today's rally here and today's press conference with an ask. Served in the military. Or if you just know someone, if you have a family member, brother, sister, nephew, niece, somebody who's even thinking about going into the military or maybe is currently serving right now, and who sees what is being done in the name of the U.S. military right now, currently in our city that we all live in, right here in our home. If you know someone like that, and many of us do, have someone like that in our lives, I want you to pass this phone number on to them that's directly right here at the bottom of this banner. Because there is a place for that person in this fight. There is a place for you in this fight. And there is a place and a role for each and every one of us, regardless of our service status or our background or our age or other demographics. There's a place for every single one of us and a role for each and every one of us to play. Those of us and those up here today who have worn the uniform and know the value of the trust that the American people put in that uniform and put in that oath that people swear to defend that Constitution with their life, if necessary, are not here to let our city become turned into a battlefield for somebody else's politics. They're not here for it. We are citizens. We are not enemies, and we are community members who all share DC as our home. We refuse to be terrorized by the very government that is supposed to be trusted to protect us. So DC, if y'all are with me in that fight, and y'all are ready to do something about it, y'all are ready to get organized, mobilized, and in this fight for the long run, we want to talk to you. DC, that's all I got this morning. I've been Jamal with the Answer Coalition. Act now to stop war and end racism. Thank you very much.